Hey everybody, I want to wheeze them here at a little after 10 p.m. Wednesday, January 8th. Getting the Series 2, Series 3, and now Wave 3 characters kind of introduced here for you. Outside of Dunebug, we've already done him. Gonna come in, we have got Twin Blade Chop Chop on the Portal Power. He is a Series 3 Undead character. Gonna go ahead and pull him. And who we're going to put on the portal now is Series 3 Phantom Cynder. She's in my hand right now. Really like the translucent purple they did on her. I believe the like lightning bolts, I guess that's what most people would call them, on her wings. Those actually glow in the dark too, so if you did not know that, check it out sometime. I think the markings on the forehead as well. That said, we're going to put her on the Portal of Power. Back out of here, and you will get to see her introduction animation, her very first time on the portal.
Bolts and lightning.
I'm sorry, Phantom Cynder. And, again, check out that skull that appears whenever she enters in. Again, very first time on the portal. Not a huge fan of the artwork there, you know, for the character, but it does look neat. She looks black, or like royal blue in the grass, but she's really the purple color. You can kind of see it better there with the light. What does she look like when she jumps? Pretty good. She's kind of got the wing flap going as if she was going to take off and fly, which she will do very soon. That's usually one of the first things I buy for the flying people, is their ability to actually fly or hover or whatever it may be. Primary attack, of course, you should know, Spectral Light. 30 damage, and it looks pretty cool. I think sometimes it'll do a little higher than that. Let's see if we can change something around. The sheep, that's what happens. Any time they get hit with lightning, you know, lightning rod, zap, etc., they'll just kind of puff up. I'm wanting to... Okay, you saw 45 there, so that's really what I wanted to show you. But 30 to 45 there. Her secondary attack, one of the things I like best about Cynder, at least when it's upgraded, right now it is the Shadow Dash. You'll get to take a look at that. Does minimal damage. I mean, it's basically 6. It's almost like she's underground and yet you can see the shadow, or she's in ghost form or something. Will that turn the sheep into... Oh, I guess the ghost is going on. So somehow the ghosts puff the sheep. Interesting. Anyway, you get the idea. She dashes under, and then the ghosts, of course, kind of take over, do a little bit of damage. Nothing too crazy just yet, but cool nonetheless. Let's go ahead now, I guess, and we will take a look at her bio.
My
Oops.
power will.
Not what I meant to do. Collection over here to Spyro's Head, 101. It's Cynder and 101 Skylanders in this episode. So, 13 on the Undead element. It is catching up with life and magic here. So, let's go ahead, come in here. Again, she should be the last one right below Twin Blade Chop Chop. We'll see if that holds true. If that's the case, these are going to be done in the order that you put them on the Portal of Power. So, we'll see how that pans out. I'm sorry. I thought I was on that. Here we go. Now we're going to do it. And that's how it's panned out. So, what I have learned, and again, I don't know that anyone else cares, you could come in here, the very first Undead character you put on the portal could be Hex, and then it could be Lightcore Hex, and then it would be Eyebrawl and Pumpkin Eyebrawl, and then you could come in and do Fright Rider, and then Roller Brawl, and then Ghost Roaster. They will come up in that order, so it's nothing to do with the game. I thought they had like these weird predetermined positions, and it kind of ticked me off because I wanted them all to be together, and I was like, well, whatever, you know, they programmed that weird. It's actually up to you, the user, so if anyone cares about that stuff, or maybe you start like a new save file. I know a lot of people got a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Maybe if you get the game or you already have it and you're going to do it after your current version's done, and you want the characters to go like in order, come in with your Series 1 Spyro, then, you know, Dark Spyro, then Series 2, then your Series 3, then your, you know, Series 3 Dark, if you will. I know that's not the correct terminology, but you get the idea. You do actually control this. I wish I would have known that ahead of time. I just assumed that it was, you know, predetermined. So that said, let's can all that it probably maybe 1% of you care about and read her biography. Really cool artwork there. She's kind of got like a funky face going on. I feel like this is one of those things. She hired a photographer, and then she'd be like livid that he got her, like mid smile or something. I don't know, but nonetheless, it is pretty accurate of her. So, Volts and Lightning. While just an egg, Cynder was stolen by the henchmen of an evil dragon named Malfor, and raised to do his bidding. For years, she spread fear throughout the lands until she was defeated by Spyro the Dragon and freed from the grip of Malfor. But dark powers still flow through her, and despite her desire to make amends for her past, most Skylanders try to keep a safe distance just in case. So, pretty cool character. Again, we've seen her in every iteration of the game. She's had, the glow-in-the-dark at Walmart last year. Don't know if she'll be like a perpetual staple, but so far her and Chop Chop faring very well. So we'll kind of back out of here. Now we want to actually come into Skylander. That's what we will do.
Shocking abilities, aren't they?
Okay, we'll take a look at her stats. Bear in mind this is Wednesday. The health is off 30. Box stock, she is at 260. Speed 43, somewhat respectable. The main thing though, her Shadow Dash really enhances everything. So if you need to get from A to B, the Shadow Dash is the way to go. Armor 18, critical hit 7, elemental power now plus 70 from the box stock 25. She sits at 95. Let's back out of here and go to what's really important, which is upgrades. Her primary attack, Spectral Lightning. Press and hold Y to shock enemies with bolts of lightning. That, of course, 30 to 45, as you saw. Secondary attack, Shadow Dash. Press A to dash forward in shadow mode, leaving ghostly allies in Cynder's wake. Kind of a cool deal that the ghosts are here box stock and not like a cheesy little add-on. First purchased upgrade, again, I always like getting the flight abilities. Press X to fly, increased speed and armor while flying. Anytime I see resistance, I'm just going to call it armor. That's what it used to be called, and I am a stickler for what things used to be. So, second purchased upgrade, Black Lightning. It does change and actually look like the box art here, so props for that. Black Lightning, Spectral Lightning does increased damage. Third purchased upgrade, Double Spooky. Ghosts do increased damage. And lastly, final purchased upgrade before selecting a path, we have got Shadow Reach. Shadow Dash range is increased. That, of course, means you can go from A to a farther away B, and that's always a good thing. Now, with Cynder, you've got two paths. She's one of the ones it's always hard to pick because her paths are actually both pretty dadgum good. If you want to address the primary stuff, the Spectral Lightning, you will take Nether Welder, the top path. If you're more a fan of the Shadow Dash, you're going to want to take Shadow Dancer, which is of course the bottom path. That said, Nether Welder is the top path. It begins with Unstable Forces. Hitting a ghost with Spectral Lightning makes it explode, damaging enemies around. Obviously, how do you use this effectively? You Shadow Dash to flee from enemies. You turn around, the ghosts are in your wake. Hit them with your Spectral Lightning, and you're going to do some damage to those enemies. Second purchased upgrade down Nether Welder is going to be Breath Control. Spectral Lightning hold duration is increased. Obviously, you're holding down Y, your primary attack button. You can get more out of it now. You don't have to stop, tap, and go again. So, efficiency, if you will. Final purchased upgrade for Nether Welder, Breath of Power. Spectral Lightning damages enemies in a larger area. This is actually a pretty wide area, if I remember correctly. If you've done that with your Series 1 and 2, or you think, man, I don't know, this is my first time, that Shadow Dash you did looked pretty cool, you'd want to come down here and take Shadow Dancer. It begins with Deathbound. Enemies hit by ghosts move slower. Sounds insignificant, but when you get into some of the tougher levels, lots of enemies, it actually comes in to be pretty dadgum handy. Second purchased upgrade down Shadow Dancer, Ghost Haunter. Ghosts last longer, have greater attack range, and do even more damage. Again, this is kind of one of those deals. I'm using Shadow Dash to get away from things, but then I create ghosts that attack, damage enemies, and now they're doing more damage. Can't argue with that. Final purchased upgrade down Shadow Dancer is Shadow Strike. Shadow Dash itself deals damage to enemies. This whole time you've done Shadow Dash, you just move about, the screen. Now, however, you have got damage done when you actually pass through an enemy. So when I go through those training dummies on the display grounds, training grounds out here, doesn't really do anything until the ghosts come in after the fact. With Shadow Strike, I damage them, then the ghosts come in and they do more damage. So that to me is probably the biggest asset down Shadow Dancer path. It's kind of a shame that's not like her soul gem, because it would have come in really handy. That said, what is her soul gem, you might be asking? It is Haunted Ally. A ghost ally travels with you and damages nearby enemies. This is one of those things you would want to not have when you did some heroics and giants. Keep that in mind. Not really as big of an issue here in Swap Force, but may say to yourself, hey, I've got Series 1 and 2 Cynder, I got the glow in the dark. I don't know who, I guess some people might not like the translucent look of the figures, or might wish she was kind of like more of the stereotypical Cynder look going on, the painted pink and purple. Or maybe you hate the I don't know. Just whatever reasons you have not to get Series 3 Phantom Cynder. Here's the deal. If you're at that point and you say don't need her for the collection, don't need her for the uniqueness, yada yada, gameplay wise you would get her because of this Skull Explosion. That is her WoW POW, different than the Giant's WoW POW. It's exclusive to Swap Force. While in a Shadow Dash, hold A to morph into a giant skull, which explodes on release. What comes to my mind, of course, that actually kind of looks like Sonic Boom's head crossed with Jetvac, more so than Cynder, as I sit here and look at it. I think it's because of like the beaked structure. That's an interesting observation. Anyway, it looks really crazy with that red sinister evil eye. But what comes to my mind is Hex's WoW POW. You got like the Storm of Skulls that creates that rain, and then you got the giant skull, and giants did like what, 280 damage or something. I don't know that this will do that, but it's what it reminds me of, so if it does, that will be insane. Since this is Phantom Cynder, and in part because I've been calling her Phantom Dash Cynder for some reason, I think I'm kind of going to be inclined to take her down Shadow Dancer, and I don't know, it just seems to tie in better with the pose. So that said, that's probably what I'll do, and of course I feel like it'll kind of come in handy with her WoW POW here. Definitely not vital. You could take Nether Welder and still use the WoW POW, but I don't know, I just feel like with let's see here. Oh no, I guess it was the base attack that actually increased the range. So yeah, in terms of the range, you could take Nether Welder, no issues, but WoW POW looks promising, so I'm excited to kind of see how it pans out. But I do think that looks more like Jetvac crossed with Sonic Boom than it does Cynder's head, which, I don't know, maybe that's what it's supposed to look like. But we'll back out of here. Take a look at her quests. Again, this gets really redundant, but, if you're just specifically here for Cynder, we just as well have it done. So, defeat 1,000 enemies, eat 15 pieces of fruit, don't take damage, basically outside of story mode, win 10 PvP, totally max out. If you don't like Cynder, Shadow Dash, and Spectral Lightning, this encourages you to fully upgrade her all the way to the WoW POW, pick a path, and then evaluate the chick, give her a fair shot. Elementalist costs 7,500 elemental bonus damage. The two big ones for the Undead element: Witherer, defeat a total of 25 life spell punks, and Back from the Brink, defeat a boss while at critically low health. However, the biggest quest for Cynder is her personal quest. This one, just like Chop Chop with the Cursed Bone, or I guess Bone Brambler, 10,000 damage, this ties in with her Soul Gem, not the WoW POW, but the Soul Gem. It is on the Haunt. It's pretty clever there, at least I think it is. I'm kind of into the cheesier stuff like that. But defeat 50 enemies with your Ghost Ally. Again, the Ghost Ally is what you get with your Soul Gem, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and make it happen. Get the Soul Gem, and you can kind of start progressing on that immediately. That said, we are done with Phantom Cynder, Phantom Dash Cynder, as I've probably been calling her. Again, her pose is one you're probably either going to love or hate, not necessarily just because of the pose, but because they changed her from like the painted figure, pink and purple, like I said, to like a translucent. To me, Again, I'm kind of a stickler for the classics. I prefer things to remain roughly the same. But since she is Phantom Cynder, and since the Wow Pow actually has to take place while you're in Shadow mode, I feel like that ties in well with Shadow Dancer, and it kind of, I don't know why, but being translucent, it kind of gives off more of a vibe of speed or in motion than it does if she was just painted. That's my general perception. I'm sure others could argue against that, but that's the way I see the translucency on the figure. So I don't mind it. I think it's kind of unique. And again, the emphasis is on the figure kind of, again, looking like she's coming out or going into a shadow strike, so that's kind of cool. But I will leave it at that. That was Series 3 Phantom Cynder. Coming up next, we're going to do one of the hard-to-find Series 3 Wave 3 Skylanders right now. That's Hornblast Whirlwind. Following that up, we'll get into the hardest-to-find Series 3 Wave 3 Skylander. Core, not Swapper or anything like that. That's actually Hyper Beam Prism Break. So that said, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe. That'll keep you up with all the latest. Make sure to check out the blog, oneofwisdom.com. Tons and tons of Skylanders information there. You can follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, circle me on Google+, whichever you prefer. Again, thanks for watching, and I will catch you back here for Hornblast Whirlwind.